Good evening. I'm calling to order this meeting of the Montara Water and Sanitary District Board of Directors. It's March 6, 2025 at 7:32 p.m. Could we have a roll call, please?
Director Dicker here. Director Young
Present.
Director Boyd here. Director Saltby here. Director Slater Carter
Here. On Zoom.
Okay, we're gonna get that audio fixed so that everybody hears that she's here and what she said.
Can't really see her up there.
I'm on the screen.
There,
Okay, yeah, we can hear you on the computer.
You can just hold down, please. We typically have the audio coming through the TV or the sound bar. Right now, Steve's featuring through the laptop.
You know what, offer some technical advice.
We have about 5 people doing that right now.
That wasn't my question.
Well, I'm not. Sure.
I think the auto blur function on Zoom is running amok. And if she turns, so if that's an algorithmic blurring, then if she turns it off, we have no problem.
No, it's a completely distinct digital channel.
You think her Zoom's okay? If all of them are equal to work, that's true. They are.
No, they're not, but that's the audio path and the video path are separate.
I said auto blur.
I understand that. The audio path
Yes.
and the video path.
So it's the which C. I'm addressing you at C part. She is blurred. Her head seems to be going.
That's fine. Okay, Catherine, could you give us a little audio? We'll just make sure we got that right. Catherine, could you just say something?
Sure. I just took it off of Blur.
Okay, we're not having the audio coming through the TV or the sound bar. It's still coming through the laptop. Is anyone else?
So you can see my background sharply.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Okay, can you repeat the, can you say something, Catherine, just?
Happily. It's cold and snowy up here.
Okay. So we got you from the other computer now.
And maybe a little bit more, Catherine.
A little bit more. Well, I heard it was a good day in Montara today.
Yeah, quite beautiful. All right. We'll get back to the agenda. Thank you for the technical work on that. All right, let's go to the president's statement. I want to start with 2 things, and one is very simple and kind of fun. You may have noticed a few months ago, a bunch of plastic containers for green waste were distributed to all the homes in Montara, Moss Beach. And when I first saw them, I'm like, I don't know. And I got to tell you, I've been using it, and it's been great. I expected it with all the little pinholes in it to let odor out, and it just doesn't. And just found it to be a real useful thing. So if you haven't tried it, if you still have it, if you haven't tried it, it's really handy. It's just a great place to put the scraps, and then it's got the handle, so it's even easier than what I was doing before to carry stuff out to the big can. So I want to thank Clemens and everyone who helped make that happen. I know that the ecology did the distribution, but Clemens and the team rounded up the funding for it, and so that was a big improvement in our home. And so I want to just say, I've been meaning to say something, so thank you for that.
Well, I'm going to hand that thanks to Tracy, who made the decision on the receptacle here, and I also agree it's an excellent choice and it works wonderfully. It has it remains open if you want to remain open, and it remains closed when you want it to remain closed. I think it's perfect.
Yeah, Tracy, thank you. When it was little holes, I thought the snow would come out, and so I was a little reluctant to try it, but boy, it's doing great. So thank you. So okay, so that's one thing, and that's just a good, happy thing going on. There's another thing going on that has the community very concerned, and it's a much bigger concern on people's minds, and that is the old Caltrans intended roadway that we call the right of way that runs through the back of Montara and on into Lost Beach. This was the land that Caltrans came in and very swiftly in the early 60s took by eminent domain so they could put a freeway all the way down to Point Conception. And as you know, it didn't happen here, but it started with the counties to the south saying, no, we don't want the 6-lane freeway all the way down there. Sanitary County was the last one, but with the help of the good folks of the coast side and good folks in Pacifica, and then some help from some leaders like Tom Lantos helping us get funding, we came up with a different approach. And we've been driving through the tunnel now for 10, 11 years.
Yeah.
So we've been enjoying that, but that land has been sitting idle, unmanaged since it was taken away from the homeowners that were on it before in the 60s. And it is just, all of us know it's overgrown and unkept. Not that long ago, there was some work done, but it was kind of, it wasn't in any way a complete thing. And the community having been inspired, having their concerns increased by all the fires that happened up in the south, they're looking at this going, how is this any different? And why isn't that being tended to? This agency has been working with Caltrans and the board of supervisors and others, Committee for Green Foothills, and pretty much anybody who has any kind of relationship to that land. Caltrans owns it, but they're supposed to dispose of it when they no longer have a use for which they obtained it. And they gave the land that intersects the Golden Gate National Recreation Area to GGNRA, but the remainder of the land they're still holding on to. And several years ago, we worked with the Board of Supervisors, and they passed a resolution 5-0 urging Caltrans to donate the land to Montara so that we could do the maintenance. We live here, we see it every day. We've got our crew going, coming and going in and around that property all the time, every day, because they have to go to all of our well sites and a whole lot of our equipment, and they're here, they're everywhere. And so they voted 5-0. We got a nice proclamation, and then everything went silent. So the community has spun up some activity to get in front of Caltrans, and that's getting their attention. And we're weighing in. We just sent a letter under my signature to Director Dina El Tawansi and to Mark Weaver, the Deputy District Director. And I'm not going to read it. Did we have this on the website yet?
Not yet.
Okay, but it will be going up, right?
Yes, we can put it up.
Okay, that'd be great. The gist of it is letting the trees grow is not a plan. And we're here to remind them we're here, we're interested. We know a lot about how to care for that. We believe we can put together the resources to care for that. And it's time. And if they want to actually do something responsible with the land, they need to put it in the hands of a responsible party. And I think Montara Water and Sanitary District has proven itself to be very responsible with being good stewards of the community interest. So this letter hopefully is the beginning of a conversation, rekindling that conversation. And I'm hoping this is also helping be supportive of the community's efforts to get the interest, because we want a couple of things. Near term, we want them to get out there and do something to tend to that fire hazard. And longer term, get it into our hands so we can keep that going, because trees and brush continue to grow. A one-time treatment is not going to take care of it long term. So just wanted to let everybody know that letter's gone out. We're looking forward to hearing from them. And the Committee for Green Foothills has already weighed in and said very much yes, and they're very supportive. So That's what I've got from a president's statement tonight. Now, do we have any oral comments for items of comments?
Thank you. If I'm just going to squeeze in front of Greg, I think Greg will make some comments about Chris. I wanted to just briefly say that Tanya and I attended it, and this fire, the fire risk was really one of the topics that was highlighted. It was made very clear how well spent every dollar is that goes into fire prevention. And with that, I think there should be understood that this property is a huge liability. So we're very hopeful that there is actually a change that now allows local dollars, grant funds that have been secured, that will be secured, to be spent and change the population. So we're working very hard to achieve this. Thank you for letting me squeeze in, Greg.
All right, thank you. Let's go first to Greg, and then we'll come to the board member. Greg? Can't hear you, Greg.
I was going to say you stole part of my thunder. I'm going to report on this Red Alert Montara Moth Beach group that Larry DeYoung founded. I'm on the steering committee. In addition to what you've done, Scott, by happenstance, Ray Mueller sat next to me at lunch last week. And so I brought this up to him, and he's generally supportive. I've since been told by Larry that he's assigned Mike O'Neill of his staff to tour the bypass in the coming week. We don't have a date yet, and look it over. And of course, he's pretty close with Josh Becker. Further, our steering committee has delivered letters today to Becker and Berman flagging the problem. And in addition, I also copied the staff that work for Becker and Berman that I know, asking for them to make sure that Becker and Berman see this. And then at the CRISP meeting today, I ran into a young fellow who's so new he doesn't even have business cards, who is Sam Liccardo's aide. And what was fascinating is he already knew about the problem because he had read Larry DeYoung's article published in the Half Moon Bay Review, and he promised to drop me a note later, at which point I will write Sam Liccardo and this aide, and I will pass on the same information. I don't know what good it'll do to go to Liccardo, but certainly Becker and Berman and Mueller are all now aware of it. So just wanted to let you know what the Red Alert Moss Beach people are doing. As far as Chris goes, I was extremely disappointed. They actually said at one point, this is just the beginning, but it's the end of CRISP. I don't see any ongoing management process. They're agreeing to help with funding grants, but they even admitted they have to wait 3 or 4 months to see what the Trump administration is going to do. So I have concerns that not much is going to come out of CRISP unless we do more prodding, starting with the county. So I'll skip all that. But while it was good to network with all the people in the room, it was disappointing. We don't even know what happened to our projects. They haven't even gotten back to each of us who submitted projects and said, what did we do with your project? How did we classify it? What questions did we have? None of that. And I must have sent in 15 projects. So, and I checked with the MCC and they have not heard a thing from them. So Chris, Ray did his best, but without money and without any management infrastructure at the county and the Department of Emergency Management, who to their credit did this study, they are not going to be the permanent management process. So I think we have a lot more work to do there. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Greg. Let's go to Bill.
This is almost directly your place. Last week, when this issue first showed up here, my reaction was, we should make sure that the agencies making the decision understand in direct financial terms, legal liability terms, how much nicer it will be for them to offload that problem to our ownership and be the caretakers of something which might explode with horrible consequences. Yes, I still believe that. But to that, I'm realizing we should have a common source of approximate information. It can't be a $100,000 study, but something professional enough we can say we expect this is true within 30 or 50%. First order thing, how many people would die under various circumstances of wildfire? How much would it cost us in damage underground, above down? How much property would be lost, you know? Have somebody look at the range from another configuration like Paradise, or Altadena, down to things where it's just been at the front, but I want just an estimate, what are we dealing with? What risk are we taking on by having this here? And then we can both point to the same numbers.
I think in terms of, I don't know about numbers in the letter, and I worked with staff, especially on this to get the letter together. So it's not all my work, but I'm happy to sign it, and especially since it's representing the agency. And what we kind of waited on was like, well, first off, let me tell you the thing about water systems that I learned from Clemens that I didn't know, but in these big conflagrations, when the systems get compromised by the extreme heat on the surface, just crazy things can happen. Like a lot of the above surface stuff can get sucked into the pipes. So now you've got melted plastic and other stuff sucked into your pipes. Some pipes may collapse. The system's compromised, and it's very likely you're going to have to rebuild the whole system. So if you want a number, yes, right now, if you want a number, I don't know, kind of wave your hands in the air and talk about what it would cost to rebuild the entire system.
That's better than no number.
Well, it would be gigantic.
Yes, exactly. That's what we get.
And it would be, and I don't even know that we need to put a number on it other than to say, because I promise you, Caltrans has a pretty good idea about some numbers down south. And some numbers from Paradise and some, you know.
The CC lightning fire.
Right. So where these things happen, the damage can go much further than the terrible stuff we see above ground.
Yes, exactly.
So we're talking, you know, to rebuild our system, I have no idea, and I'm not going to put you on the spot. I mean, but we're talking tens of millions of dollars to rebuild that system. And that's just the water system. And then there's all the homes.
Exactly.
And the school and the businesses. So what we know is it would be so bad that we need to make sure it doesn't happen.
1,000 homes would be $2 billion.
And we just need to make sure it doesn't happen because the number is beyond the pale.
I agree.
So as much as I would like to have a number, because I'm also a numbers guy, I don't have to wait because I can say he wants.
I didn't say anything about it. Yeah, it doesn't say way.
No, right. And I'm with you in trying to, let's make a case that really makes the jaws drop. But when Clemens mentioned that all this stuff can get sucked into the pipes, and then what you're not going to clean those pipes.
I've seen that happen with friends line.
Yeah, you're not going to clean those pipes. You're going to replace those pipes.
What if the pipes melt?
You know, what kind of carcinogens go into the pipes and all that junk gets sucked in there. So
Plenty.
yeah. So right now we're kind of a happy part of the battle. You know, exchanging pieces of paper and perhaps having some conversations. So, but you know, this is we have invested a lot of time into working towards establishing ownership of the right of way for the benefit of the community, to protect the watershed, to provide perhaps some additional strength to the water supply, and to care for the property for passive recreation like it's being done now, except with some actual caretaking. So it could be better for the community to use for some of the uses that it already kind of roughly supports, but with no real hand to maintain it. Cindy, you had something?
Well, a few things. I did meet Nicholas Hargis, who is Sam Ricardo's aide, and he was at Ray's meeting today that Ray didn't get to. And I also went to Sam Ricardo's swearing in ceremony, and he had a town hall at the West Valley College. So while he was on his break from Congress, he was out here, you know, trying to figure out, you know, what to do for our community. But a lot of the people at that meeting were I guess, kind of yelling at him like, what have you been doing for us? And he's new, new in Congress, and that Congress is messed up. So, but anyway, they like, sorry, Greg said the guy doesn't even have cards yet. So, and then on February 26th, I went to the fire board. Well, I didn't attend in person because I had PT, but I went on the Zoom meeting. And the CFPD, Coastside Fire Protection District, had their meeting, and fire sprinklers was on their agenda, and they said they still don't have a plan with us yet, but also they mentioned about the mid-pen not being. The fire marshal has not approved any of their building permits yet because of poor ingress and egress. And so that probably is going to happen for quite a while. Then on April 19th, Jackie Spear and Ray are going to have their ad hoc fire committee meeting over in the San Mateo County Event Center. Pretty much that's it for now, but the fire sprinklers, that was the thing I thought you might want to see. And then, and March 26th, which is the next fire meeting on 4 p.m. on a Wednesday, they're going to have their next meeting, and they did say they're going to have a much bigger, more community interest meeting regarding fire evacuation and also I think hardening homes and that sort of thing. So I know a lot of people in this community are worried about fire. That would be something to go to or attend in Zoom fashion if they want to. Set the Station 40 down in Half Moon Bay if they wanted to attend in person. Pretty much it.
Okay.
Scott,
Okay.
I think we should maybe make this an agenda. I think there are two agenda items. One is to move directors' reports from the end of the meeting to the beginning, because I just heard a very long director's report. And the other is to put on the potential costs of a fire. I don't think we need to spend any money on a study. I think a few of us can put the data together with a good internet search. Certainly Aqua and CW and CCW, CSDA will have some of those numbers, as will our engineers. I don't think we need to pay for a big RFP and a huge thing, because it depends on too many variables. So I'm suggesting two agenda items for the next agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any more hands. Let's go to new business item 1 for any information concerning auxiliary connection for Pillars community.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. We're somewhat staying with the topic, and I'm going to just say from you, the story starts in 2021 when we were part of a hydrant flow test at the Pillar Ridge Mobile Home Park site. And that hydrant tested, it was a very substandard. We got around 300 gallons out of the hydrant, 300 gallons per minute. And that started essentially concerns for us for the fire flow situation at Pillar Ridge. At the time, we were pursuing a plant remodel, and essentially added an upgrade to the connection to the plants, because we also already knew that there was a new water main line needed in front of the property there. So the Big Wave project has paid for a new water main, a high pressure water main that fronts the property there. And so at the time we started essentially thinking about a connection in conjunction with the treatment plant rehab. The treatment plant rehab went an interesting path. So we first lost some grant funding. There were some significant delays in the submittal of the grant. Unfortunately, that led to us missing out. And then another situation is that right now the water quality is impacted, so that we're actually not using the plant at this point. However, we have already, of course, always understood that the fire flow through the MWSD connection is better than through the plant. That has to do with the required volume of water that is needed to extinguish a fire. That's also the plant doesn't have the capacity to handle this. The requirements. I'm going to just talk about our internal requirements here that are, I believe, the same as the fire districts. So that meant for us that we essentially separated out this project and asked this board to authorize the design. So we had an initial design that we were interested in completing. And I want to thank, first of all, the owners of Pillar Ridge here that brought up some very good questions that alerted us to, some ownership issues here with this project. And I also want to thank our general counsel who then helped us to understand that the new connection to Pillar Ridge is very similar to any connection in the district, meaning it's the responsibility of the property owner. So at this time, we've notified the Pillar Ridge owners of this situation and are very hopeful that they essentially will continue our efforts, assess the situation, and come to their own conclusions and establish a connection to the system that they own themselves. So that is the current situation. So just unfortunately, we have to inform you that we aren't able to proceed with this project as it was planned.
Yeah, you see a hand from Lisa Ketchum. Lisa? Lisa, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
How's that?
Yeah, that's it.
Sorry for that.
Yeah.
So there was I wrote some emails to, well, let me go back up. So Pillar Ridge owners had been in contact with you regarding your January agenda. I think they were late because they don't get your agendas, and I notified them about it. But there was a request that any further discussion be directed to Tanya. Do I have that right? And so I had sent my suggestions about this location of this water main and other issues. And we got no response. Pillar Ridge didn't, and I didn't. And I had some useful comments there. And I did followed up with Tanya and said, I would really like to have your thoughts on this. And then I'm also aware that George Turk, the owner, has written to Clemens and Scott just yesterday or the day before, and about this, the fire hydrant testing or whatever, all these things we have been completely ignored, and it is not mentioned in your meeting. And I just don't, I don't see how this can happen. This project was proposed, and I saw it on your agenda in January, and it was to be right in the middle of the main intersection into this 227 home community. And with valves put, boxes under the street in the middle of this very highly traveled intersection, and other concerns about that. And we have not been included in this conversation at all. And I thought perhaps there would be some mention of this correspondence and these things at the meeting today, but I don't. Just Scott, do you have anything to offer? I think you were the only one included on, other than Clemens, and whatever. I guess I'm using up too much time.
No, I'm not worried about the time, Lisa. Thank you for what you have to say. Let me start with the Clemens. Clemens, you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you. So Lisa, I think you need to essentially address so first of all, I want to say, we have communicated this to the management at this point, and yes, they have some questions that we will respond to. However, I'm just going to recommend that you address your questions to the owners of Pillar Ridge community. I mean, the situation is such that they are now in charge of designing this, and Montara Water and Sanitary District is essentially, we will approve a design or make recommendations for changes. So I think you need to talk to the owners of the
I am
property.
I'm in close communication with them. They are completely aware of the emails I sent you, and they have asked me for other background, and they have replied to you. And so this very short memo they sent you yesterday, which Scott got a copy of, seems like you could at least read that to the public. I mean, it's like to say I have no right to speak here. That is just wrong. We are working in tandem with Millennium Housing. They wrote you. They're not mentioned here. I'm not mentioned here. The board is getting the full information.
So Lisa, have you had the opportunity to go through the staff report that Clemens has presented to us? Because something fundamental changed when we got the feedback from the management. Right. So I mean, I want to find out, have you had a chance to take in what's in the staff report?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna restate it really plainly. In looking at the questions that were raised, we came to a very different understanding of our own understanding of what was going on with the proposal that we had initially said we would fund and drive. And we realized that we're not in a position to fund and drive a project because of the nature of the need that it would serve. So you can't be in the business of gifting public funds, and it was basically our determination that that's what this would amount to. And we spent some time looking into that very carefully to see if we were understanding that correctly and making sure that that wasn't just a misimpression.
Why didn't you reach out to George Turk about this? Why is he not included? Why is nobody included on this end of this?
George Turk is not who we're responding to here. We're responding to the regulatory framework that we operate in. And in looking at the questions that were raised, we came to the understanding of, wait a minute, what we were proposing to do, we shouldn't be doing. And that's not an issue for George. That's an issue for us and our accountability to the law. Now, we wanted to get really straight on that before we came back and said, hey, this is very different from what we were proposing before, but this is where we find ourselves. And now I think George has written to us. We can follow up and engage further with George. But where we are tonight is informing the board, hey, board, we approved some spending and staff is coming back going, we don't think we can do it as we discussed and approved previously. So that's what we're doing tonight. And we'll have to have the follow-ups with Millennium, and we will do that. George has already taken the position in his comeback that there's no need to do that. But what that amounts to, well, we were proposing to do a project. We are no longer proposing to be the one doing and funding the project. If there is a project, it's going to have to be funded a different way. So that's where we find ourselves today. George takes the position that there is no fire flow issue. Okay, that's Millennium's position at the moment. We came to a different conclusion, but maybe that's where we pick up the conversation.
What you presented in January to the board here did not mention anything about fire flow. It was about more with this big pipe under Airport Street now, another connection to Pillar Ridge, where the existing connection is a 4-inch from back in the 60s. That's all there is. And the right of way to that connection, that valve that has always been there, goes through the warehouse property. There's a right of way already there. I sent a drawing. I pointed all this out. And I can't believe what I'm hearing. I'm sorry.
I read at least some of your correspondence where I did see you pointing that out and talking about the alternate access, and I think you make some very good points there. They're interesting to me, but they're also not part of what we're talking about with the project that we had proposed. The thing that I guess I want to emphasize, and then I'll hand it to Clemens, is that in January, when staff gave that report and the board approved the funding, that was our current understanding. And what happened was we then got questions from Millennium, and we started digging into them and started looking at them and came to a realization that we kind of had been barking up the wrong tree in how we were thinking about the expenditure of the public's money. And so we're not able to go down that path now. But that's because Millennium came back and alerted us to some issues that led us to dig into things that we did not cover in that first staff report. So it's it's not where we thought we'd be, but we are better informed. And so this is saying, okay, this is where we find ourselves right now.
So you said that my comments and my drawing about how this could be hooked up had some merit. I don't understand why I'm shut out of any conversation here at this board. I really don't.
I'm sorry.
Why does the new connection have to be as far away from the existing one as possible? Why is that? Why can't and why was this project proposed for construction in March? Why was that presented to your board in January and nobody here, nobody knew anything about it until I saw your staff report in January and sent it to them to alert them?
So Lisa, I think we just explained most of that. If you listen to the verbal presentation from January, you're going to hear very clearly that the purpose was fire flow.
No. It was never mentioned in your first staff report, never mentioned.
Written staff, I'm saying the verbal presentation at the January meeting. What we're saying here really is, I'm just going to repeat this, that the design of this, if this project should move forward, is in the hands of whoever Millennium Housing will hire to design the project. There's very good reasons why this, there's pipe separation requirements, first of all, so we don't want this connection directly to be adjacent to the existing connection. It simply has to do with that you want water to be able to enter from two different directions. You want most likely the shortest distance to your pipes. Those are just reasons that I can tell you right now why I think you will come to the conclusion, or Millennium Housing, that there are financial and operational reasons place the connection at a very different point than the existing connection. Again, I think you need to talk about the design and how this moves forward now to Millennium Housing and not to this agency. That's what I'm trying to say.
So you acquired our water system, our wells and our treatment plant and everything, and the storage tanks for fire storage and all of that. And my understanding is that subsequent to that, the connections from the 4-inch from your system, which we're now on because of the pollutants in the water in the wells, the connection that we had from the treatment plant directly into our distribution system, that indeed was on the other side of the park, that has now been disconnected. And so we're going back to the days before you acquired our plant. When the plant was down, we would open the valve connecting to this 4-inch thing that has always been there. And now we don't have this duplication anymore, that that to supply our distribution lines, the only alternative now, since the plant has been shut down, is to use this old 4-inch meter over there by the warehouse. And so if you're proposing to solve that problem by putting in this bigger pipe right in the middle of our main entrance, just because that's advantageous because it's far away from the existing 4-inch pipe, you have taken over our water treatment plant and our storage tanks and made them useless. How can we the water storage tanks are there to save water for fire, just like the one at the warehouse next door, and is no longer connected. And we don't have any control of this because you took over our water system. And not only that, you have been pumping the water from our wells for no charge at all. It's a very sweet deal. And I just feel like we've been ripped off at this point.
So let me respond. You had several things in there, Lisa. We're not proposing a pipeline anymore. So there was a proposal. We can talk about whether or not we arrived at bringing that to Millennium in an appropriate way. I will tell you that I'm aware, because I looked at the communication history carefully, that there was what I would call a communication breakdown. And I'm looking in the direction of Millennium when I say that. Now, communication breakdowns take both parties. So I'm not going to say that was a terrible thing or insurmountable. And in fact, we are doing some correspondence. It's going a little slowly right now, but we had to do some homework, which led us to, there is no plan for a pipeline now. And let me go further. We're certainly aware of many issues around the existing water supply, how things are going now, and producing water at no charge. Well, producing water doesn't happen for free, and there's been a lot of work done with a lot more planned, and there's no idea, I think, around doing anything except putting what we took responsibility for to the best possible purpose. So I'm kind of going to push back a little bit on this notion of we've been getting a sweet deal when we're operating a water system, and there's a lot of things to be involved in that. And I think you've heard our engineer and our staff talking about things for redundancy, reliability, fire flow, all the right things to talk about. But where we are right now is financial responsibility for it cannot be taken by the agency. So let me give it to Clemens.
Yeah, Lisa, just some technical background maybe to clear up some misunderstandings that I've heard. So the park can be supplied either through the treatment plant with the associated tanks, or the connection to Montara Water and Sanitary District there is no technical possibility where this can happen at the same time together. The plant is not disconnected. There is no requirement for us to turn the plant off. The plant is simply turned off. We've chosen to turn the plant off for the benefit of the community there. There is plenty of agencies in the Bay Area that serve water with this contaminant in it at this point. We've chosen not to do that. We've chosen to turn the plant off and supply water exclusively at this point, exclusively through the 4-inch connection. For better flows. Just some aspects here. The other angle that I want to say is the wells and treatment plant have only served Pillarich. There is no possibility at this point, even though Montara has the rights to these wells and the treatment plant, there is currently no technical possibility to pump water into the Montara distribution system. So, we got, I think, a good deal for this community because Millennium Housing was not willing and able to fix up the plant and is continuing providing water cost effectively. So this community purchased the plant, and we did have first plans to extract water, but at this point, this is currently not happening. So I don't think that anyone really got a sweet deal here, except the Pillarich community.
So, Sid?
Well, first of all, Lisa, I'm sorry. This is the very first I've heard of anything, and you're in my district. Since we went to district elections, Pillarich I'm the director that isn't responsible for your district, and I'm sorry to hear about all this. I do remember in January asking Tanya if that water system that we were voting to approve was going to be at the main entrance, and she said no, it was going to be over on the side. So I don't know, maybe the plans changed, but I wouldn't have approved it if I'd known it was going to be in the center of the main district. And when I looked at the plans, I'm not an engineer, it looked like it was going to be in the middle of that big intersection where everyone comes and goes. So, but also it sounds like, and I, again, don't really know much about it. This is the first I'm learning of it this evening, but it sounds like you have water systems there that you could use for fire suppression if you had to, because we're not using that water for the general community because there's contamination. So I guess, yes, we did buy your tanks and your pumping and stuff, but we've been maintaining it all this time to the best of our ability. So you got a deal too, I think. I mean, if we've been maintaining it for you, but I'm not sure because I don't know what the dollar amounts were that we spent maintaining it. But, sounds like Millennial is an absentee landlord down in Southern California. They weren't willing to keep it up to snuff because, there's all kinds of governmental levels that you have to keep your water up. We have to pass tests. So anyway, I hope I can meet with you at some point and get more of a bigger picture of this, since I wasn't involved in any of the communications.
I would hope,
Sorry.
I would have liked to had a meeting with Tanya and whoever else to have a calm discussion of this and somehow feel like I'm being heard. I'm sorry if I mention the fact that we don't meter the water that you pump from under the thing. I realized it raised hackles and there was no point in doing that, and I apologize. It doesn't really matter. I just know it was a sore point with you at the airport that you had to pay that, and we no longer receive that income, so there it is. But the main thing is to get better communication, and this project, it seemed like we were, when I say we, I mean the people who live here and the nonprofit that owns this low income community. I mean, that's us. I feel a part of that, and I don't, it's frustrating that you people don't feel that and that you don't see us, because we are just part of this single owner, and that single owner is this entity in Southern California. But, and Scott, you remember this, when we got rent control, mobile home rent control from San Mateo County, it was right around the time you guys got the water system in Montara and Moss Beach, and you reached out to me with this mutual congratulatory thing that you saw this parallel. And yes, this community did join together, and we accomplished that. It only took 4 years. And we thought that we had achieved a nonprofit owner who would listen to us, and I think they do. But we certainly have not gained, we, the residents, certainly have not gained any status here since Citizens Utilities.
I wanna respond to that. And Bill, I see your hand, but since that was directed at me. I think about Pillar Ridge and its residents a lot. I've spent time there and knocked doors and talked with people at length. I talk about Pillar Ridge to members of my friend group and members of the community probably every week. I'm sorry that you don't see that more, and I probably should do something to address that. So you might have a little more insight into some of that, but I'm not looking for credit there. I just want you to know. In a lot of my thinking about what Millennium is doing, I'm interested in trying to empower the members of that community as much as I can. We do have legal constructs that make some of that really complicated. Like, we don't own the distribution system inside the park. And that's like the one part of our water system that is very different. It's very much probably the closest entity structure that I can relate that to is like an apartment complex. And so that's not how I think of the community, because it's a bunch of individual homes with a bunch of families and a bunch of people. Community where people gather in the street and several people working on a car or having a barbecue, and I see this. So I'm looking for ways to do that. One thing I do want to specifically mention, and yes, we have someone elected for District 2, District 4, thank you, District 4, which encompasses Pillar Ridge as well as some of the surrounding community. Prior to going to district elections, we went through a process to prepare for district elections, and a key focus was making sure that Pillar Ridge had the greatest opportunity to have representation from Pillar Ridge. And we went further and had multiple sections on what it's like to run for office, what it's like to serve as a board member in the district. And it's my desire at some point to have someone from Pillar Ridge sit at this table and be a person that you can share your thoughts with this way, except they would have a vote on this board. And I've long had a desire to see that happen, because it's like our single largest identifiable neighborhood in our whole community. We've got about 5,000 people. There's 800 plus people in Pillar Ridge. I've tried to nail down a number, and I saw a number from Millennium, probably 3 years old. So I'm not sure exactly where the number is, and I apologize for not having a better fix on it, but over 800 people, that's a lot. So I may be going on a little bit about this, more than I should, but I just want you to know, no, I take this issue very seriously. At the same time, we've got a structure that we find ourselves in a kind of a unique place, with Millennium kind of in the middle of all that, and like it or not, and I'm not really a fan of this, but Millennium is the customer to the district, and it doesn't seem at all representative in the way that we look at every other household in our community, but it is the situation. So we're looking for ways to engender as much as we can, but that's where we are. So we can do more communication, but when it comes down to it, they're the property owner, they are the water system customer, and we've got to find a way to work with that. And some of that I think is going to really require improving how we're the correspondence didn't leave me feeling good about how some of that was going. And yeah, I'll leave it at that, but I want to hand it now to Bill.
So, thanks, Louise. I've learned more about Pill Ridge from what you've talked about the last half hour than my entire other time here. Even though I haven't been here more than a few years. But it seems unambiguous that what Scott and Clements are saying is true. There are certain legal things we are allowed to do, certain things we are not allowed to do, certain things we're responsible for. And there are also certain laws regarding which pipes can go where, and certain laws of nature regarding how much pressure and flow can exist under what circumstances. And it sounds like we are doing everything as right as we can. And I'm sorry that hurts so much. The point I want to ask Clements is to the side of that, it's something I haven't actually thought about, so it should be like a 1-minute answer ideally. Clearly, we are somehow responsible providing fire water for fighting fires, as well as serving, drinking water and things like that. We're paid month by month and gallon by gallon for the drinking water, so roughly our business is for supplying the normal residential use. But we're still legally and morally obligated to make sure all the fire hydrants work when needed, even though that's not part of our revenue stream. And I haven't heard how it's part of our capital and maintenance stream. So my rough question is, out of all of the money we spend on doing everything with water, what fraction is for fire flow different from residential? And I don't know if that's 1% or 10%, but that will, when we talk about how much we spend on testing fire hydrants, how big that is as far as our general mission.
Well, I'm glad Tanya is sitting next to you, our water engineer, who can talk a little bit about the capacities that we reserve in the pipes and the tanks, etc., for that purpose. Tanya.
Okay. Thank you. The fire hydrants are just around the fire district. So we don't do that. Unless we need a hydraulic.
So we're
Yes.
part of it, but the test is part of it with assisting.
The biggest improvement this board has made to the system was to build more storage for fire protection. Right? So it's a huge investment. It's probably the largest investment this board has made since buying the works. The board, when the district took over the water system, the board established criteria for how much storage we need. And it's 2,000 gallons per minute for 2 hours to fight fires in the community. It's a very conservative number, high number. But this community has achieved it by building 3 new tanks. And that's available to all customers. The system will deliver this to all customers. The other part of it is the system has to be able to deliver. But it's not so depending on where the location is. Meaning, is it show, is it residential? A residential fire is 1,000 gallons per minute. For the fire code, commercial fire is 1,500 gallons per minute. By the way, Pillar Ridge has both fires because there's a community center and that's commercial fire. And it has to be able to deliver it at that level, at that flow, but there is a show pressure of 20 pounds per square foot. Square inch. The investment is enormous. Did I answer your question?
Well, it sounds like it's more than 30%. So overall, so no. And if the testing's the ongoing stuff, it sounds like capital investment is the biggest portion of what we have to worry about in fire prevention. Cool, that's like 2/3 of everything, and the rest would be details. Perfect.
Yes.
Just the one other thing I wanted to bring up that I've noticed, and I understand Lisa's feelings, because whenever there's a opportunity to protest a rate increase, Pillar Ridge only gets one vote, even though they have like 225 homes or something. Lisa, how many homes are there?
227.
27.
We own our homes. This is not an apartment complex.
I know.
These homes are the largest investment of anybody that lives here.
I know that. I totally know that. I'm saying that because our district looks at your entity as a single owner, you guys don't get to vote whenever there's a rate increase. And I always have thought that's been wrong. But they said Millennium's the owner, they get one vote. So that I understand why you feel the way you feel. I completely understand. I don't even agree with how they do it, but you know, and I know you had issues with the garbage cans too, or I guess the recycling cans for green waste too. So I'd like to try to work with you to make it, try to improve it. If there's a way. I don't know about the water situation right now, but any bad feelings, I sure want to change that. So
We are in the same situation of being not voting members of this community when it comes to trash, sewer, and water. It's the same all the way down the line. And when you were speaking, Scott was speaking about trying to get somebody from Pillar Ridge to run for the board there. Okay, I'm busy. And Gabriel's busy too. And everybody else here, everybody else has no idea about the structure of this locally elected district, the board here. And because all our trash, our sewage and our water is sub-billed to us on our rent statements, and you get your rent statement and you pay your bill, and people don't realize. And it was just since this last time I complained that we started getting the newsletter delivered, but there was no communication whatsoever from MWSD with the people here. They have no clue what's at stake. And I just
when we started putting Spanish translations on everything, it was
that was good.
firmly in mind, and everything about the academy, what we call the academy sessions, we did outreach on that. So one thing I know is a lot of the people there are working multiple jobs and don't have a lot of spare time, and so I know it's a big ask, and I know that there are more than you and Gabriel who might be able to step up to this. And I'm going to continue expressing hope and interest and trying to help people develop an interest in joining even community service, because that's an important element of where some of the representation's going to come from. So we've got work to do. We do. Clemens is probably sick and tired of me saying, but there's all these homes and there's all these families and homeowners, and we've got to treat them the same. And it's like, yeah, that's just not the legal structure, and we're not able to do that the way it's currently constructed. But that doesn't mean we're not
When we-
we're not going to stop trying to find ways to achieve something that feels passes the smell test for fairness and equity. But under the current structure,
Okay, so when you took over the water system and we had negotiations, and the question came up, of course, about the distribution system. Did Montara want the distribution system? And I guess when they looked at the whole situation and the fact that we currently own and maintain the system and the meters, and we read the meters and we sub-bill all the stuff, well, who was going to want that? So we kept it, and you guys don't have it. And now that apparently is the reason why we have to pay for a new connection. I don't understand this, but the structure and saying that your hands are tied, it's like I did notice when after, once you started trying to encourage conservation by using rate tiers right away, it didn't work for us. And yet, and of course, most of the time we were on our well, so it didn't matter. But when we had to draw your water, virtually every drop of that water was at the top tier. 227 homes on a rate tier structure meant for one home. And we paid the bill. And when finally I noticed that you did change your rate structure now, and apartment owners are no longer, with these things, they've been given that benefit. You said, oh yeah, that's not fair. We'll divide it by 4. The system we set up when you acquired our water system, we set up a system so these rate tiers would no longer penalize us. And I was glad to see that this solution we chose for that, now you are finally applying that to apartment owners, but it was never right from the beginning. And to say now that this is some legal structure, that there's nothing you can do about it, I can't accept that.
well, I'm eager to have the conversation with you if you want to help find an alternative way that we can structure this or look at it. Like I said, I'm not satisfied. Sid has said very clearly she's not satisfied.
Well, we've run out of time. If you want to talk to me about it, I'm sorry. I have less than 6 months to live. And I think this will be my last attendance at your meetings, and I'm sorry this hasn't worked out.
Very
Sorry to hear that, Lisa. I was gonna suggest that you CC Lisa as the person at Pillar Ridge most knowledgeable, but I didn't realize she had a health issue.
Well, I'll reach out to you separately, Lisa, and if there's any possibility of spending some time with you, I'd like to do that right away. But I'm terribly sorry to hear. No one has been a bigger, stronger, more effective advocate for Pillar Ridge than you. When we think of Pillar Ridge, we can't help but think, well, it's Lisa right there. That's who we're going to wind up talking with. We will. So, if it's okay with you, well, I'll reach out to you separately, and if that's okay. But, wow, I'm really sorry to hear that. But comments?
Lisa, I wanted to thank you for every comment that you've made today and throughout the years. We've been working together for quite some time, and I'm very sorry to hear about your situation. I do wanted to just respond real briefly to the way this is set up. It's very deliberate, and it is, again, for the benefit of the community. If we would take over this distribution system, then we would bill every single meter in the community. So the way this is set up, the district bills for one single meter. That's a huge financial benefit that is directly going to the Pillar Ridge community. That is the main reason for this setup. all of the, I want to also say the rate structure that we apply works for Pebble Ridge as a single customer, meaning instead of getting one 6 units under tier one, Pebble Ridge gets 227 times 6 tier one units, and so on and so on and so on. So it's really up to the owners again to structure it properly. You're not paying your water bill to Montara Water and Sanitary District, you're paying the Pebble Ridge water system bill. And it's up to the owners to work with us in extending, the leak refunds, all of these things. This is what we've signaled multiple times, that we're very willing to work with the Pebble Ridge water system, but we have to work with the water system because they're taking your money, not us. Thank you.
So I don't know, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I think we're done.
Well, I'll add the Clemens comments. Your participation has been invaluable over many years, and you're diligent and vigilant and strong in your advocacy, and many times it's felt like a thorn in our side, but I'm always glad that we've engaged and still have ambition to find a better way, something that winds up feeling much better aligned. And I don't think we're going to give up working on that. All right. Well, we do have more on the agenda. Please loads. Let's go to item 2, review and action concerning receipt of funding for FEMA declared disasters on behalf of Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side.
Thank you, Scott. I'm going to ask Peter to briefly report about the numbers, but this is essentially the grant that we can also thank Tanya for helping, for doing all of the work really here. So we applied on behalf of the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side for disaster funds. And so anytime we receive funds from this, from FEMA, we're handing them over to the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side. So Peter, tell us just a little bit about the numbers here.
Yes, as Alan said, this is a continuation from the previous fiscal year, and I believe even the fiscal year before. The money is still trickling in. We have been in communication on the SAM side with FEMA, hoping to get a number of additional projects funded. So there really is no timetable for when the funds are received. From the indications we have that the funds have been obligated, but I said really kind of in the dark as far as when those funds are received. This is for another, or from the project from back in fiscal year 21-22 for the winter storm damages. Those costs are still being repaid through this FEMA grant. So yes, this is the additional 3 checks that came in for about $66,000. On the Montara side, we gross up those funds and recognize the revenue, and then in full distribute those funds back to SAM for the reimbursement for funds that were spent during that time period. Any questions?
Bill?
Just simple, how much money is left to disperse? How long would it normally take in a normal year to disperse it? And how much longer do we expect it will be because of the federal government in crisis?
bear with me for a quick moment. We have a worksheet that we're utilizing that shows the bigger chunks have been taken care of.
Peter, while you're looking that up, I was really glad to see we're still getting money from FEMA.
Yes, there was obvious concern that wouldn't continue. Um, but like I said, just through, well, like I said, we haven't really. Kishan is in contact with the folks at FEMA. And so I said he doesn't always report back out to me, but okay, sorry. $1.5 million, also $1.2 million, and of that we've received, gosh, I want to say, well, the wrong spreadsheet here. I think I have the right one this time. So $1.5 million, and we've received a little over $1.1 million. So an additional about 450 remaining. And sorry, Dr. Sofsky, what was the back end of your question? As far as the timetable of receipt for the full amount, or what is typical?
Well, typical is a straightforward thing, but I know the federal government is suddenly threatening to not pay a lot of things. And if that's entering into your calculations, I'd like to know that part separately.
Sorry, I just don't think I can answer the question as far as, because it said I haven't really been able to. I mean, we just haven't got a really good feel as far as the timetable, as far as what we've received. Everything that we have on our worksheet states has been obligated, and we've received those. For the pieces that are pending, that part represents about $340,000 as far as pending. As far as what the status is of those pending projects, I do not know that.
I was just wondering, do we have anything to worry about? It's a very simple question.
Once it comes off.
We have something to worry about. Until the funds are received, I would say yes.
Okay.
All right, well, staring into the unknown, but thank you for keeping an eye on it and keeping us informed. Let's go then to item 3, review and possible action concerning proposed disposal of surplus cost P30 generator.
Yep, thank you, Scott. So we have an old generator, 27 years old. It's been with us and served us quite well. Even though, the hours on generators are always low. But it's been rusting away so badly that we actually already purchased and asked this board for a replacement unit. That replacement unit has been serving as an additional generator at the Dade Hart pump station during its rehabilitation. And that project has taken quite some time. We've reported about that. This is now pretty much completed. So the generator is freed up. We would like to move it to the Wagner well site. That's where this generator is stationed, and dispose of the unit. That means we'll sell it off as best as we can. And that may mean that it's a scrap scrap facilities, but there is a way to properly dispose this, so there are some sites that are helping us with that, so we would like to dispose of it as best as we can. I do want to mention that there is a trailer-mounted pump on the back. We're not going to reuse the pump, but we will purchase a separate trailer-mounted booster pump. It can come in handy for various situations. So the blue thing on the back in the staff report will separately replace this. That's not a huge cost. So here, adopt a resolution of the Montara Water and Sanitary District declaring certain property as surplus and authorizing its sale. We asked for the adoption of this resolution. Thanks.
I move.
I second. All right, so Bill makes a motion, Peter makes a second. Did we have any further discussion, any public comments? Okay, I saw your hand go up.
Sorry.
You gotta walk out, it's like an option. Just walk yourself, generator, rusted to completion. Okay, I'm just gonna have a roll call over.
Director Dicker? Aye. Director Young?
I just saw the pictures. Hi.
Director Boyd?
Aye.
Director Solsky?
Aye.
Director Sager Carter?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The motion carries 5-0. I'm going to point out and thank you to Catherine for catching this. I skipped past the consent agenda. So when we're done with new business, we're going to double back and take care of the consent agenda. Item 4 though, let's finish the new business. Review and possible action concerning nomination of representative on the CSDA Board of Directors seat B.
Yeah, thank you. So the California Special Districts Association, CSDA, has been doing some really good work for all special districts in California. And they're conducting a call for nominations for seat B, and that is to actually the Board of Directors for the 26-28 term to the CSDA. And this would be representation of the Bay Area network. It's a total of 3 seats that represent the Bay Area network, and each network, and there's I think 5 networks within California. So a board member is expected to attend 4 or 5 board meetings, participate in some committee meetings, and is reimbursed for the travel, et cetera, by CSDA. There is some, there's the potential for a requirement to attend CSDA conferences. That would not be reimbursed. And any independent special district is, so that is a member of the CSDA, is eligible to designate a person that can be a board member or a managerial employee for election as a director of the CSDA. And so whoever that could be would need a district's resolution or minute action from the board of directors of this agency. So this time I'm actually interested in getting more involved in CSDA. I've been attending their conferences for now 18 years and have followed their business quite closely throughout the years. So I'm expressing interest to serve on this board of CSDA. This is where I'm hoping I do find support from this board to adopt a resolution. This is a position that requires some intimate knowledge of the administration of special districts. So you'll actually, when one looks in, this is there's a number of general managers involved, And so I'm gonna see this as a declaration of essentially attending more of the conferences and getting more involved. So I am asking the board to adopt the resolution of the Montara Road and Sanitary District, placing in nomination Clemens Feldmeyer as a member of the CSDA Board of Directors, representing Bay Area Region Seat B. Thank you.
All right, I see Sid and then Catherine.
I'd like to nominate Clemens. Or so moved for his suggestion. And this, it says here that's part of the Bay Area network. It doesn't mean you have to run against anybody from the other districts, does it?
Well, there may be more than one person that is nominated for a seat B. So there is an election that is being held, and we will later be asked to vote. And I hope you guys are voting for me.
If that's a motion, I'll second it.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Catherine?
Catherine, I'm meeting.
I got moved and muted. Thank you. The current chair of CSDA is a general manager. I think it's a very positive thing for us to have Clemens on that board. And to answer Sid's question, there is an incumbent. And there are quite a few districts, I haven't counted them, but I think there are about somewhere around rough number 12 districts who have the opportunity to nominate someone for this. So just nominating somebody does not mean they automatically get on the board.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
I think Clemens will be an excellent addition to the board. And it's a interesting group that meets. So in any event.
Would be a strong contender.
Yeah, awesome. Well, with your the many years of your presence there, it's been very interesting. I've been looking forward to it. Just to give you some idea, I think just looking at the expiring terms, there are 4 professional staff members, different titles: general manager, CEO, a couple of directors, but there's Community Services District, Sanitary District, the Mosquito Abatement District, the Veterans Memorial District. So it's lots of different kinds of districts. So sounds like, I don't know, I hope this works out. It's could be a good thing. I think we could use a little additional representation there. And the CSD really, there's a need for some representation, strong representation coming out of this part of the world these days. So, okay, we have a motion and a second for the resolution. And we have a roll call vote. But, oh, Catherine, your hand's still up? Did you have more? You're muted again.
Sorry about that. No, it was just up to remind you I'm going to vote yes.
Okay, well, why don't you hang until the roll call, and just stay unmuted.
Director Decker? Yes. Director Young?
Yes.
Director Burke?
Yes.
Director Selfie?
Yes.
Director Slater Carter?
Aye.
All right, the resolution is approved 5-0. All right, let's roll back in time to the consent agenda. Do any board members desire to pull any items for discussion, or can we get a motion to approve?
I would approve it.
All right,
Second. Peter.
I'm gonna have to, that's a split decision, but I'm gonna have to give it to Peter by a whisker. All right, and we, Catherine, you're muted again.
Yeah.
There's a gremlin running on you, everybody, apparently.
At least between here and there. I noticed the data on some of the graphs is not contemporary, is not up to date. It's missing February on rainflow report. And on the generation report. And I'd like for those to be pulled and held for the next meeting until we can, so we can bring any that are out of date up to date.
So,
The Sam report said January anyway.
No, this is the water production only shows a January number.
so we're in the March meeting, Catherine, and that means they're presenting January data. If we are always lagging a month in the years, simply because we have to prepare the staff report a week in advance of the first meeting every month. So we would have to, report incomplete data.
Mhm.
So that is the reason why. So these charts are correct that I'm looking at, and we always have, and we'll have to report this information or some of the information in about some essentially with a month lag.
So since we're reporting monthly totals, I
Correct.
need that month to be done
Yeah.
before we report out the partial number.
That's right.
I see. Catherine, does that make sense?
It's not my recollection that it was a month behind, but that's okay. Maybe I find these particularly the SAM flow reports and the rain reports to be particularly important for analyzing stuff that's going on within the entire system. And maybe we can move, I don't know how we do it, but I just thought I'd bring it up and thank you for the explanation.
Right.
All right.
And the SAM flow report is one of those that also Sam has to report essentially with a month in the arrears, and we just take what Sam reports.
Yeah, it's a tricky problem. Unless you have some kind of live dashboard you can look at, you're gonna take monthly snapshots. It happens. Okay, can we have the roll call vote, please?
Director Baker? Aye. Director Young?
Yes.
Director Burridge?
Aye.
Director Salkey?
Yes.
And Director Slater Carter.
And, you're on mute, so we didn't hear your vote.
Unmute, okay, yes.
Oh, thank you. Consent agenda passes unanimously. Let's go to reports. Sewer authority Minto side. And Catherine, do you want to take that, or I can jump in too?
Yeah, well, let's do it together, Scott. The last agenda was about approving a contract with CalCon for upgrading and dealing with the electrical, the incredibly complex electrical circuits and network at SAM. And there were other bidders, but SAM board chose to go with the folks who know the system, so we don't have to pay them to learn. We're also having preliminary discussions about what to do with the electrical building at SAM, and so there's some ideas being considered, and it will be nice to have CalCon, who knows the system so well, on board.
I'll add that so they handle the SCADA systems, which that's just the computers that they use to control all the equipment. The SCADA stands for something, and I normally spell it all out, but it's like system control.
Supervisory control and data acquisition systems.
Thank you,
Tanya. And data acquisition. Yeah, it's the computers that run the gear. And thank you for that. But they also do a lot of the other, what we normally think of as the electrical stuff, the more, the higher voltage stuff. One thing that they mentioned that I was unaware of, but CalCon will stage people in town before big storms so that they're here and able to get to the plant if something emergent happens. Not just the plant, but also all the pump stations. So they're essential to keeping things running, and when electrical or computer things break down, staff can do some things, but Calcon often is really the consultant needed to do that work. So that was a cool thing to learn, that they stage folks and are ready just in case. Yeah, so that was the one item of regular business, and I don't, pretty short meeting. I don't think there's a whole lot else to report from that. Okay, let's go to Midcoast Community Council. Do we have anyone here who wants to speak?
Right.
No, okay.
Let me just bring up from the agenda, I did not attend the meeting, but there was a stormwater report presentation. And in talking to Greg, it was not particularly good news. What a surprise. Consider proposals for peer review of stormwater report. That's a serious issue. We have people in Montara who are in fear of getting flooded and have had to take enlist friends and community members to help clean out the creeks and the waterways that the county is responsible for. It is the county's responsibility to take care of our stormwater problems. And they have a huge liability because they haven't been taking care of it for decades. There are many houses who you can see when you drive along the streets have PVC pipes that drain from their roof directly into the gutters or the creeks. And so this is a serious problem, and I suggest everybody pay very close attention to this. They had a treasurer's report and other stuff, but the stormwater on this coast side has been a problem. Oh my God, it's been increasing on the creek that kind of ends and goes under First Street into the wetland just to the north of First Street. For as long as I can recall, that creek has been eroding and causing problems for the folks on Second Street and folks at the end of the creek. And so I think perhaps a letter of support from the Mid-Coast Council, or I'm sorry, to the Mid-Coast Council and to the county from this district would be very valuable. Because our lines can be affected by those. And certainly our residents have been and will be. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anything for us from CSDA or LAFCO?
There hasn't been a CSDA meeting. LAFCO, there has been, and the two big issues were the municipal service review of the Harbor District. The Harbor District passed in flying colors. It's not like the Harbor District in the past. So it's financially sound. It's paid down some of its debt. Debt's always increasing because of retirement stuff. The district has acquired some land to use. The discussion on the needs for the district on the land is ongoing. But the thing about real estate is if it's offered and you don't buy it in California and on the coast, it only goes up in price. And we have a number of district related needs that we need to be considering right now. And so the other one was the Broadmoor Police Department. It's a 3-member police department. Daly City has been eager to consolidate it and bring it into the Daly City, under the Daly City Police. The citizens of Broadmoor are adamant. They want to keep their own municipal police service. There's been a new member on the board, and so LAFCO is more or less keeping an eye on it to see how they can handle their funding and their retirement and all of the financial issues that special districts have to deal with. But I think with the new board and some education through CSDA. There's lots of free classes available. They will be able to pull out of it. I will say that since I started working in Daly City in 1980, I was aware of the strong desire for the citizens of the Broadmoor Police Department district to keep themselves separate from Daly City. So I see hope there, and I will say the LAFCO board is willing to listen. So that's about LAFCO.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, attorney's report, Christine.
No report.
Okay, thank you. Director's reports. General manager's report. Do you have anything additional to your written staff report or to your?
Yeah, I want to get back to the CRIS meeting that Tanya and I attended today.
And what does that stand for?
Coastside Resiliency Infrastructure Support Program, and I hope I'm correct on that.
I think you passed the test. You got Chris.
I'm sad that Greg is not here anymore. I'm gonna say I fully understand his perspective, that it was somewhat disappointing, particularly because the county did not share it shared the method of ranking of these projects and prioritization, et cetera. But it didn't share the projects itself, so that was a little bit awkward. But I do wonder. I'm going to pitch in for the county here. I do understand this because there is some security risks in making such lists publicly available, and so I do agree with the county that there are some concerns about sharing the vulnerabilities of the coast side. But I think, for the individual owners, it would have been beneficial to understand, of owners of the projects, it would have been, I think, beneficial to receive feedback. And I think this is what what is going to happen. I think it's also understandable, Greg's position is also understandable, that the county essentially announced that they're going to shelve this plan and they're done with it. However, again, the county already took some action and supported individual projects and is trying to get some grant funds for those. And the reason why they want to shelve is they want to understand the federal climate a little better. So they have plans to pull it out in 6 months, look at the situation again. So in general, I think the idea of the county understanding what the issues are and being able to alert to grant funds or even provide assistance with acquiring grant funds can be of value. So I actually think that this process was a good process.
Okay. Thank you. That's good background to have. I'm looking at their website. It seems a little out of date. No updates since like June of last year. I was hoping to see, but maybe they'll be. Did they say anything about updating the website with whatever they shared?
Didn't come out. Did you? Well,
okay. All right. Thanks. Let's see. Do we have any items for future agendas?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Sid first and then to Catherine.
I would request that we put on a future agenda to discuss having bylaws. Because we don't have any. I know it came up this past week because GCSD has some, I think Sam's working on some. There was kind of an unfortunate situation with a board member of the other district was in the Coastside News, and it wouldn't hurt to have some, bylaws So if we could put that on the upcoming agenda, I'd be happy to work on that.
I'd be, if we were gonna get to that, I went through, for example, the Granada, the GCSD
The ones they just published in January.
that they just published. It all looks extremely familiar with material that we already have, and like lots of that is already on the website, so it might just be a matter of collecting them.
My wife, is board chair of an.
I thought I was next.
I'm sorry, that's my mistake. Let's go to Catherine first. And Bill, I'm sorry. That's my mistake.
Thank you, Bill. As Scott said, these are generally, bylaws are useful, but we already have what we need. I think consolidating that into a set under bylaws for those who need a specific bullet point to read is useful. But
Right.
I also think that more importantly, we need to look at our agenda, and maybe we should have the director's report at the beginning. Since that tends to happen. And I also think we should consider maybe bifurcating our consent agenda so that the data that we can't get until the end of the month gets put on the agenda sooner, so people can find that. It's not a big deal. Hopefully it's just a simple clerical task, but to change the agenda does take a decision of the president, and generally the way this district has worked is the president is not a unanimous decision maker, but brings things to the board.
Okay. So, Bill?
Yeah, I was just, for the bylaws thing, since I'm married to someone who deals a lot with things like bylaws and board dynamics and stuff. She tells me that in general, most boards do have bylaws, but there are, for me, three stages. One is to have a discussion, should we have bylaws? Step two, if we say yes to that one, would be what structure? And I know that nonprofits tend to have a standard template, and I don't know about public ones. And it might be that our bylaws are set by the state water and sanitary agencies somehow implicitly. I don't know. And then the third and final one would be to put in numbers where numbers go. But all I'd like to do is talk about bylaws at a time other than now.
When we have it on the agenda.
Yes.
Okay.
Scott, let me add, when we're looking at this agenda items, I don't hear that any of these are particularly pressing. I think we've got other more pressing things to look at, like the budget and dealing with the county and the state and the community on what to do for the Caltrans right-of-way issues and the fire issues. One of the things I'd like to see is again, and I think it should be sooner than later, is the estimates of the costs on what a fire would take out. For instance, just given the variable of the number of houses, they're looking now to rebuild a house at about $750 a square foot. Most people don't have that much insurance, and I also would like to see us send a letter to the state and the county and Caltrans with those costs in them, and saying that the community is trying to do what we can to take care of ourselves, but we hold them responsible. Thank you.
Well, I would think a lot like the last one, so staff and we'll come out together. Yes.
As long as we're talking about upcoming items, I self-nominated to submit for the CSDA awards, and that their year-end meeting is in August this year. So that's when their meeting's down in Monterey. And I would like to go to the meeting, but I can't find it on their website right now. And there are several categories. I spitballed it with Clemens, but does it need to be approved by the whole board or just me and Clemens to submit for? I could tell you the categories now if you want to hear them.
Clemens, did you have any thought on that?
Well, I mean, said if, we can work on getting something together, then, we can present something to the board and keep them informed.
Okay.
I think I heard before that, you think you brought this up before, and we said, yes, go ahead and.
Right, but I didn't know if I said I would make the I would be happy to submit for the awards. The deadline is May 1st. And originally I thought a good idea was if we were gonna have our strategic plan public meeting, that we could have that videotaped and use that as our update and our public outreach, because that's one of the categories: exceptional public outreach and advocacy for large or small districts. But I don't know, we haven't talked about strategic planning since November of last year when
We've already got on the books everything that we did for the academy sessions.
but that was in 2022, and we were supposed, it has to be within the last 2 years from 2023 on. Now, I'm not a cheater. I mean, we could
Well,
re-up it and,
no.
but you might say something about COVID in there, so I'm not sure. I haven't watched them lately. Anyway,
Well, if
the other.
you're able to identify good candidates to put forward, but given the timeline, if we haven't already done it, it's probably not something that we get in by May.
We're not gonna have our strategic plan public
If you're
outreach
working on
before May
If
1st.
you're working on an application,
I'm not yet. I'm just haven't got a plan yet.
that's what I'm getting to. It's March and if it has to go in May. Yeah, I wouldn't be betting speculatively that we have something that we should be looking retrospectively, not.
And we were gonna have that public meeting,
No, we're working on a number of things right now,
so
so
it's off in the future.
we don't have it scheduled.
Okay, so I would propose maybe we could still use our November, I'm sorry, September 9th meeting that we had, I mean, our special event we had out here in the parking lot. Which that falls within the 2-year category.
Well, but if you get something together and present it before you submit it, that sounds good.
Okay. The other thing
What's
is
it-
what the year.
What is this
Yes.
going to cost?
On the floor, board member of the year, general manager of the year, staff member of the year, the Ralph Heim Exceptional Outreach and Advocacy, which applies to government and legislative, which is, bigger than what we do mostly. Chapter of the year, innovative programming project of the year. And then last is excellent in technology. So I thought really the only one we really could do is public outreach. Or if we wanted to put Clemens' name up there for general manager of the year. Which I think he's great, so I don't know.
I don't know, he's got a child.
So, I mean, my perspective is I leave this all up to Sid. I think, we have to prioritize, and I particularly have to prioritize my time. So whatever Sid can put together, I'm happy with presenting to the board and making that available. But, I can't volunteer, time for this.
I know.
Okay. Okay, well, looking forward to it.
Allison might have some of the details that she had pictures and stuff from our previous.
Well, okay, you work out the
I
details.
will.
Okay,
Thank
Well,
you.
Sid, and I hope you will follow the standards of the board for all of your independent work. You don't charge the district.
so,
The volunteer thing.
yeah, all right, let's
Good.
go now. So we are at the end of the public session. We're gonna go into closed session. We have just a couple of things here. We've got the existing litigation, the case with Half Bay suing its partners. We've got the public employee performance evaluation for the general manager and conference with labor negotiators for the unrepresented employee general manager. Those are the 3 items listed. In the conference with labor negotiators for unrepresented employees. So if we take any action in closed session, we will report that when we come out of closed session. With that, thank you all for your participation. It takes some effort to be here tonight, and we're really glad you're here. Thank you to PCT, and we'll look forward to seeing you next. So we are now in recess.